What is up, everybody? This is your guy Cly, and welcome back to Budget Tubing, and more specifically, a little mini-series that I've been planning that I want to call Shoestring Budget Tubing. And it gets that name due to the fact that I'm going to be focusing on content creation gear in the $10 and under range. Also, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare, for making this mini-series possible. More about that later on in the video. If you're wondering why the Bugha LED gaming microphone is currently center frame, even though I've already reviewed it, well, that's because this is actually what inspired this little mini-series. Because to be perfectly honest, I had high hopes for this thing. I did not want to give it as bad of a review as I did. And for those of you who haven't seen that review, here's a slight spoiler. This is one of the worst microphones I've ever used. In fact, it's so bad I took that as a challenge. I wanted to prove that it is possible to find decent microphones and other types of recording gear in this price range without having to go to AliExpress or Wish or any other low quantity wholesale source. Now, originally, I was going to be covering a $5 HDMI capture card in the first episode of this series, especially since this is what won a recent poll that I held on the community tab of my channel. However, I'm altering the deal because I found something even more fitting, and that's this. The G55 desktop USB gaming microphone. This was $8 on Amazon, though technically I have seen it being sold as high as $15 or $16. However, the fact that this is regularly available for $8 qualifies it for this series. And if you look closely, you might notice a little bit of a resemblance between these two microphones. And I'll go into more detail about that shortly. And here we have the back of the boxes. Now, I have talked in detail about the Bugha microphone. As for the features on the G55, we have a unique patent gaming style design, professional and classic appearance, high sensitivity condenser microphone, long sound pickup distance, low noise, rotatable microphone stand, adjust height and angle freely, microphone base with LED light design, LED color optional, work with LED on and muted with LED off, high quality 1.5 meter shielded braided cable. It is omnidirectional, has a sensitivity at -30 decibels plus or minus 3 decibels, a frequency response between 50 Hz and 16 kilohertz, an impedance of less than or equal to 2.2 kiloohms, an operation voltage of 5 volts over USB, a cable length of 1.5 meters, and it plugs into USB. And you've got to love how both of these microphones have a similar glamour shot on the side of their box. And I should also thank whomever packaged my G55 microphone in a bubble mailer. As you can see, that did a great job protecting everything. And here we have both microphones out of the box. And as you can see, these look practically identical, at least as far as the shell is concerned. I don't know if both of these microphones came from the same manufacturer and then were rebranded, which I should go ahead and point out is very common, especially in the lower cost tech realm. In fact, I've seen multiple companies putting out this exact style of HDMI capture card with a different name inscribed on the front. That's just how these things go. And an even more relevant example when it comes to audio tech would be the BM700 and the BM800. If a company has touched audio gear in any way, they've probably got their own branded version of these. Of course, it's not guaranteed that this is a rebranding. It may in fact be a shell clone, which is where one company basically rips off the design of another company, at least on a superficial level. In fact, I kinda think that's what happened here due to the fact that the guts inside of the Bugha mic cannot be compared to those inside of the G55. The audio quality is going to be that different. If you don't believe me, there will be an audio comparison coming shortly. Now, one of the more significant differences between these two microphones is the fact that the G55 actually has a 3.5 millimeter audio jack on the base of the microphone, as well as what looks to be where they intended to put a USB port, though that never came to pass. I wouldn't be surprised if they did plan on putting a USB port there though, because I have seen that on similar microphones in this price point. However, on the Bugha microphone, there is no evidence of the audio jack or intended USB port, which is kind of lending credence to my theory of this being a shell clone. I mean, if the manufacturer was willing to just put a little plug there instead of completely changing the shell when they opted out of including the USB port, why would they completely re-engineer things when it comes to making the Bugha microphone? Continuing on our list of differences, let's go ahead and talk about the gooseneck on these microphones. I have found that the G55 does a much better job of staying in whatever weird position I decide to put it in, whereas the Bugha mic kinda does, but eventually does a bit of a flex back. Not a huge difference, but it is still something. Also, while they have the exact same head design, they do rock a different color of mesh. Continuing onward, let's go ahead and just move these out of the way and talk about the LEDs. I currently have both microphones muted, so let's go ahead and unmute them so that the LEDs turn on. And, well, I don't know if you can see the LEDs on the G55 due to the fact that it's just lighting up red. So let's go ahead and turn my lights off for a split second. And now we have an ominous red glow, whereas the Bugha microphone has a very annoying 3-color flash. And the final difference is actually going to be the efficacy of the mute button, because I found that the Bugha mic is not always the most responsive when it comes to pressing the button. However, the G55, very responsive. Now, before the audio test, let me go ahead and talk about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads and they're always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. While there are a ton of different topics to choose from on Skillshare, personally, I've been doing a deep dive into video production with a side order of product photography due to my style of content. One particular class that I've taken recently is Product Photography Basics for Your Handmade Business by Christina Turner. I've been wanting to improve my thumbnails and DIY project teaser photos for a while now, and she has several tricks that can help me do just that. Also, the materials she uses for her backdrops have a DIY feel that really resonates with how I do things. And to be perfectly honest, they flew right under my radar, otherwise I would have already been using them. As such, I'm going to be stocking up the next time I head out, and hopefully you're going to be seeing the fruits of my labor on the community tab of this channel in the not too distant future. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of the premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Alright, let's start this test off with the Bugha microphone, because I know it's been a little while since some of you have heard this wonderful audio quality. Now I'm about 1 foot away from the capsule with it pointing directly at my face, which is about how most people will be using this microphone, and I've got the recording volume maxed out. I'm projecting quite a bit so that the microphone tops out at about -6 decibels. Though of course, if I were to figure out a way to get this microphone within about 4 inches of my face, this is what I would sound like at a more reasonable speaking volume. As per usual, this microphone has that lovely -36 decibel whine going on in the background, and I've not figured out a way to get rid of it. And the audio quality is set to 32 kHz 16-bit, also known as FM radio quality. This is what the microphone is locked in at, so you're not going to be getting any better. Also, if I were to use noise removal on this audio to get rid of the whine, it would sound a little something like this. And you've probably noticed there's a little bit of an odd sound at the beginning and end of each of my sentences, while the whine is still kind of present in the parts where I'm speaking. Now on to the G55. Here I am on the G55 microphone, and just like with the Bugha mic, I'm about 1 foot or so away from the capsule with it pointed directly at my face. I have the audio capture set to maximum on the microphone, and I'm projecting about the same amount. As you can probably tell, this mic is a bit more sensitive, which I'd say that's a good thing. The only real downside is when I have to project this much to get a decent audio capture, you're going to hear how echoey the room that I typically record in is. Of course, that's not the case when I'm about 4 or so inches away from the microphone like I am now, because I don't have to project anywhere near as much. This is why I typically use a lavalier or clip-on microphone for my videos, though I also use a standard condenser microphone on a stand when doing voiceovers. Now, something tells me most of you have already noticed the key difference between these two microphones, and that's the absence of a negative 36 decibel whine. Now, there is a little bit of device noise, but you're going to be getting that with pretty much any microphone on the market, especially a USB model like this one. This is actually one of the areas where an analog microphone is better, because you can run that through an amplifier in order to raise your audio above the device noise. Now, the other key difference between these two microphones is the fact that I get to choose between 44.1 kHz 16-bit and 48 kHz 16-bit for this microphone. Those are known as CD and DVD quality audio respectively, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say it sounds a whole heck of a lot better than the 32 kHz 16-bit, aka FM radio quality, that you were getting with the bugha microphone. And there you have it, an $8 microphone which not only looks like the bugha microphone, but it also doesn't have that annoying flashing RGB LED and sounds so much better. It's also proof that you don't need to break the bank to get a microphone that sounds passable. And in fact, Five Below themselves sell another microphone that sounds much better, depending on what you have it plugged into. And it comes in at half the price of the bugha microphone at just $5. Now, of course, this does sell out quite frequently, but they have been restocking it, so hopefully they continue doing that for a while. However, back on topic, my only real complaint about the G55 is the fact that it is a gooseneck microphone and not one that is compatible with a boom arm, which I tend to prefer using. It allows me to bring the microphone closer to my mouth, and that will improve the quality of your audio significantly, as you heard during the audio comparison. Fortunately, the Pulse microphone is compatible with generic mic clips and therefore can be used on a boom arm, so there's another point in its favor. And with that, you can probably guess that I definitely think the G55 is a great buy at $8. And if you are interested in the G55 microphone, I'm going to go ahead and put an Amazon affiliate link down in the description below. And on that note, this is your guy, Kalai, signing off.